Welcome to the Holidays to Switzerland Travel Podcast. Your host is the founder of holidaysto-switzerland.com and the Switzerland Travel Planning Facebook group, Carolyn Schonnefinger. On this podcast, Carolyn will be joined by a variety of guests who share their knowledge and love of the country to help you plan your dream trip to Switzerland.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Holidays to Switzerland Travel Podcast. Today we'll be chatting about a part of Switzerland that is off the radar for many international visitors to Switzerland. That is the Appenzell region. I've only had a brief glimpse of Appenzell when I did a day trip from Zurich a few years ago, so I'm really keen to learn more about this beautiful part of the country. Joining me today to tell us all about the region is Andreas Frey, the Managing Director of Appenzellerland Tourism. Welcome, Andreas.
Hi, thank you for your invitation.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, as I just mentioned in the introduction, you're responsible for tourism in Appenzellerland. So for those listeners who don't actually know where Appenzellerland is, can you tell us a bit more about this part of Switzerland?
Yes, sure. The Appenzellerland is located in the eastern Switzerland. So if you look on a map, it's on the top right side. And there, most of the people, or some people probably know the Lake of Constance. It's the third biggest lake of Middle Europe. And the lake is the border to Germany, Austria, and quite near to the Austrian border, there is also the small country Liechtenstein. And therefore, the bigger region where the Appenzellerland is part of is also called the four-country region. So that's like the bigger context. And the Appenzellerland is like this 5 Swiss franc coin within another canton, and the Appenzellerland itself is as well divided into 2 parts.
Now, I guess the great thing is that you're in such a tranquil location with such beautiful surrounds, but you're so close to the major cities as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big advantage, can as well be a disadvantage, because means that the people are coming only for a day and go again back to the city centers, and that's actually not something we wish. Our target is always that people really deal with our destination, calm down, arrive, calm down, and also experience our tradition, our culture, which is quite important to the people living here and for us as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I said before, I'm guilty of only visiting the region for one day, so sorry about that. But I did have plans to visit for longer in June 2020, but we all know what happened to our travel plans that year. So it's definitely on my list for next time to come back and stay longer. Now, you just mentioned there that the customs and the traditions that you as a destination want visitors to enjoy. And I know from just the short visit that I had to Appenzell that the traditions are really strong. I mean, even on that one day when I visited, I saw people wearing the traditional clothing, and I've seen pictures of them with the alpine horns. What can you tell us about the different traditions and customs that are still practiced today?
Yeah, it's true. That's going to be quite a big answer, as it is very important to us. Probably there is no other region in Switzerland where traditions and customs are observed as passionately as in the Appenzellerland. However, it's not the only thing we have, but I think the people here in this region have a very strong feeling for working together and helping each other. And therefore you need like this basement and these processions, these different things we have, they help therefore. To go through these different traditions, I suggest we start at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. The biggest tradition we have is the New Year's Mummers Procession. That's on the last day of the year. And according to the old Julian calendar, on the 13th of January. Because we have, as I already said, there are two cantons, like the Catholic Innerrhoden and the Protestant Ausserrhoden. And therefore, it's still like something they celebrate as well on the 13th January, which is called the old change of the year. And on this, in this time, in December and January, on these 2 days, there are men and boys costumed as typical traditional characters. They wear masks and colorful robes, and they walk through the region from different farmers to farmers early in the morning, and they are dressed like beautifuls, like uglies, or like forest and nature-based figures. And in a group of 5 people, we call that Schuppel. And then they are ringing these traditional bells and are yodeling it. They go from door to door and wish the people, the farmers, a happy new year. So this spectacle, it dates back to the 15th century, and every year it fascinates a lot of people from Switzerland, but as well surrounding countries. So that's where we start with the year, and that's the biggest highlight, I would say. And afterwards we have the Blog Procession. The Blog is a part of a carnival tradition from the Appenzellerland. And actually, when the last tree is felled in the winter, there are 20 men from the village Urnesch or Herisau, and they pull this tree through the different villages. And at the end of the day procession, the tree is sold to the highest bidder in the village. And then this bidder makes some furniture out of it or whatever. So that's the Blog. And next to that, we have some farmers' tradition as well. So the Cattle of the Cows, which takes place around April, May, you actually never know the exact date because it depends from when the snow is melted in the higher regions. So, but on this day, the dairy herdsmen drive their cattle up to the Alpine pastures in an orderly and colorful procession. So there is quite how can I say it? Quite documented how they walk behind each other. So first there is a small boy always, and then there comes the goats, the Appenzeller goats, the white one, and then there is a children, a girl, also dressed in the festive folk dress. And after this girl, then the herdsman comes with the yellow trousers and the red traditional closers, and then the 3 cows. So the 3 most beautiful cows with their big bells. One bell is up to 9 kilogram, have a weight of 9 kilogram. And after these 3 most beautiful cows, there are 4 other herdmen, and then the rest of the cows. And at the end, there is coming the dog and the owner of the whole cattle. So it's really like these traditions are quite fixed, and it has to be like that, and it was always like that, and it will be probably always like this. It's quite impressive to observe.
And that's one of the great things, isn't it? That it's been the same for so many years, and it continues to be the same today.
Actually, however, I think as well it develops in little steps, and that's also something it has to, because only like that the tradition can live further. And so we have this farmer traditions which are quite beautiful. And we hope that they are still existing the upcoming years.
So that when they go up to the alpine pastures, as you said, usually around April, May, then they come down again, don't they, in sort of September, October? Is that celebrated with a procession and so forth as well?
Exactly. So we are now. I'm actually not finished with the whole year. So during the time they are on the Alps, there are as well some traditions like the Stubete. It's actually traditional music is played. They are dancing, merrymaking, and there are some highlights of the day, like a dance called the Hierig. And this dance is done from a couple, and it's always the same procedure as well. So the couple, it's a mix of dancing and acting, and the couple get to know each other, they fell in love, they break up, they tease each other, and of course there is a happy end in the end, and they fell in love. So that's actually what's happening during the summer when the people are living in the higher regions. And then, as you already told, there are the Abfahrt. So that means that they come back. That's about end of September. And then it's not that early in the morning, because they start early in the morning, but then they come to the village around 11 o'clock or something like that. And then in Urnesch, there is a large farmers market offering a variety of local products. So this ceremony is then the end of the summer, and a few weeks later there is the cattle show. So in autumn there are some cattle shows. The farmer then presents their richly ornamented cattle in the show arena, where an expert jury assess and ranks the animals. That's quite an important thing as well for the farmers, because the cows which are winning a prize, of course, they get more profit in the end. So that's the last point of the year of these farmer traditions, and then it starts again like that every year.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, you've mentioned the farming traditions there, and I imagine with such a beautiful landscape that's great for breeding the cattle and goats that you mentioned, that there's a lot of products that are produced in Appenzellerland. So one of them that many people will be aware of is cheese. What is so unique about the Apansala cheese, and what other specialties can visitors taste when they come to the region?
Imagine the cows are living there where a lot of people spend some money to spend their vacation. So it's the beautiful landscape they are enjoying. No, kidding. But seriously, it's for sure it's important point. The cows are exclusively fed with fresh grass, wildflowers, herbs, and hay. So natural ingredients, traditional craftsmanship, and as well there is a mysterious herbal brine, which is part of this secret recipe of the Appenzeller cheese. And of course, they make quite hard quality control as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this unmistakable aromatic flavor from the cheese comes from washing the cheese regularly. Regularly, they use this secret herbal brine. There are herbs in it, roots in it, but there are actually only two people which know what is in the recipe, which is what is really in it. And then they, from hand, they wash these cheeses, and like that it gets this flavor, and therefore it's quite famous in Switzerland, but as well around the world. Yeah.
Lovely. And what about other specialties that people can try when they visit?
We have, for example, the Appenzeller Biber. The Appenzeller Biber, it's kind of a special gingerbread with honey and nuts. Then furthermore, there is the Appenzeller beer. It is quite famous in Switzerland, and actually, if you are traveling to Switzerland and flying with Swiss, you already can get your first, with Swiss International Airline, you can already get your first taste of the Appenzellerland, because there in Swiss they are, or in the flights from Swiss, they are serving the Appenzeller beer.
Okay.
That makes us quite proud, and we are actually the biggest private brewery in Switzerland, which does not belong to big brands like Heineken or Carlsberg. So that's another product from our region. Next to that, we also have a quite innovative water bottling factory. They started with bottling water, but now they diverse their product portfolio with sweet drinks, teas, jams, aperitifs, which are very delicious. That's the Goba manufactory.
Okay, so there's something for every taste there.
Sure, yeah. Perhaps one thing that is also quite funny from people from foreign countries is I want to mention that is another cheese, the Urnescher Hornkuhkäse. It's actually a cheese which is only made from cows, which they still need to have their horns. Otherwise, they won't use the cheese, the milk for this cheese. So also
Really?
the horns can have an impact on the flavor of cheese.
Okay. Well, there you go. Now, I'd imagine that one of the reasons that many people choose to visit Appenzellerland is because it's kind of off the beaten path more than many other destinations in Switzerland, and you can get a real sense of what life in a rural Swiss village is like. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, it's quite like that. I think most of our visitors are from Switzerland, like nearly 95%, and the traditions are very important to the local people. And if there is too much visitors, this can stimulate the tradition in a wrong direction. Mm-hmm. Like you have this folklorism, people are only coming to make their photos and leaving and not really interacting. And so therefore we try to be as careful as possible. For example, we are actually, even though I'm working as for the tourism, we are not very amused about big buses arriving in a village. People are visiting the village in a group. 2 hours later, they are gone. That's not the way we think tourism should be. So our target is that people really deal with the culture, the landscape. They should arrive and get to know new things, how we are doing this or that, instead of visiting an open air museum. It's, for me, it's as well a question of sustainability. What impact does a visitor want to have towards the destination and its population?
Yeah. No, that's a great way to look at it. You want people to come and really, as you say, immerse themselves in the culture, rather than just come and say, yes, I've been there, and tick another destination off their list.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can you tell us about some of the towns in Appenzellerland and some of the highlights that people can expect to see there?
Yes, sure. We can start in the north, in Heiden. Heiden, the village, is actually like on a, how do we call it, on a terrace, and you have a wonderful view over the Lake of Constance. Special thing about this village is that it burned down completely. And afterwards, it was built up in about 1.5 years or something like that. And so it's all the architecture style is in the same way in this village. And that's quite impressive. And then when we go further, we come to Trogen. So we go further southwest. From Heiden. Trogen has a Baroque church, and actually they have a big history about textile workers. There is a family called Zellweger, which was quite big at this time and quite important in whole Europe, actually. So this origin of the name Zellweger, you have it, people with the name Zellweger around the world, they actually all come from this original place, Trogen. So there it all starts with this dynasty, which was quite big, and they had some quite big houses as well, or if you will call it even palace, in Trogen, which you can still visit today.
Okay.
And then further, we go to the so-called Hinterland. So Appenzellerland is as well divided into 4 smaller regions. And there we have like the more agriculture focus, more focus on traditions with Herisau, Stein, and Urnesch, where the farming is much more a topic than in the other parts of the country. We also have in Stein, for example, the show diary, the cheese diary, and in Urnesch the museum of traditions, which is also very interesting to visit and to get to know the culture of the destination a little bit more.
Okay. So is Apansala a good destination for families to visit?
In my opinion, the Appenzellerland is like one big playground, an open-air playground, but you have so much possibilities of outdoor activities. There are a few hiking paths with different topics, like that. It's easier to go for a hike with children. However, most of them are in German, so I'm not sure if they are really a thing for people which are not speaking the language. But even though you can walk and you come across different playgrounds which are free to use. And then a big highlight for many children in our region is the Reka Feriendorf. Reka is a Swiss company which has actually different places, villages, small vacation villages for families. So there you are actually living in an apartment, but you can use some different things like you are in a hotel. And there the children have a whole program the whole day. They can feed animals and visit different farms. And next to that, there is also the family mountain, or so-called family mountain Kroberg. And this mountain has a zipline park, a toboggan, which is quite attractive as well.
Yeah. Okay. So there's lots of things for children to keep occupied with.
Sure.
And with such a beautiful landscape, you've already mentioned some of the things that children or families can do outdoors. But what about if people aren't coming with children? What sort of outdoor activities can they enjoy throughout the year?
Now, in our region, hiking is for sure the number one. In winter as well as in summer. In winter, you can walk with snowshoes through the forest, which is quite idyllic, and you're very fast. You're very alone, and that's something I really appreciate in the region myself. So you actually don't need much. A pair of good shoes. You have the fresh air. And the adventure can start.
And you never know where you'll end up.
Yeah, a good planning is
you might need a map.
Good. Also observe the weather, but however, actually, people say about the Appenzellerland, the good thing is that within an hour there is also the next There is always the next restaurant. So you even don't have to get picnic or a bottle of water or whatever. There is also a restaurant is coming within 1 hour if you're walking.
Fantastic. Now, I'd like to ask you a bit about, and excuse me if I pronounce it incorrectly, but Mount Santos. Now, it's a mountain.
Very good.
Oh, good. Thank you. Now, it's a mountain that's probably not very well known to international tourists. Certainly, most people have heard of Matterhorn and Jungfraujoch. But what can you tell us about Mount Santos, and what can people expect if they visit there for a day?
Yeah, so we haven't talked about Mount Santos, and actually it's one of our big highlights. The Mount Santos is far away the highest peak around eastern Switzerland, and especially if people are arriving from Germany, or if they are coming from the southern part of Germany and driving towards Switzerland, you see the Mount Santos as the only one standing there, and it's quite impressive. With good weather conditions, you can see 6 countries from the mountain. So you see, of course, to Switzerland, to Germany, Austria, and Liechtenstein. So this 4-country region, but you can even see to France and Italy. So that's something quite impressive. And as it is standing alone, you feel sometimes like like a little bit like a king standing there on this mountain. Yeah. And then even in bad weather, you can learn a lot, because they build up some experience zones at the top of the mountain. There is one experience zone about ice. A lot of people don't know it, but there is still a very small glacier next to the peak of the mountain. And the other experience, which is at the top, is all about weather, because Mount Santos has a lot of different weather records. For example, there is no other mountain which has harder winds than the Mount Santos, because it's standing that alone. Like, the weather can come with all its positive and negative things, and that's quite impressive to see how powerful weather can be, and how powerful this peak station at the top has to be as well.
Yeah, sure. So if people want to go up to the summit and enjoy those experiences, where do they? I assume it's a cable car, not a train, a mountain train that they get. So where would they catch that from?
They catch it from Schwegalp. Actually, you if you arrive with the public transport, there is a bus driving to the Schwegalp, and there you can get to the cable car station and then go up. Yes.
Okay, great. So if any of our listeners are planning on visiting Appenzell, do they need to rent a car, or is it convenient enough to get around with public transport?
Now, it always depends on what you are traveling with. Like in most regions, of course, a car is more comfortable. However, we have in Eastern Switzerland, we have this special guest card called Oscar. And with this card, you are able to travel. You get this card if you are staying for more than 2 nights. And with this card, you are able to travel for free with the public transport. And you can even use all cable cars for free. Next to that, the entry to museums and, for example, the cheese diary of this famous Appenzeller cheese are included. And you can even use the boats on Lake of Constance with this card, or visit the Rheinfall, which is actually not in the region of Appenzellerland, but which is in the region of Eastern Switzerland, and of course the biggest waterfall in Europe. So within this guest card are a lot of attractions. And as I already said, the public transport is included as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, so hopefully we've encouraged our listeners to visit Appenzellerland and stay for more than just one day. So if they do plan on visiting and spending a few days in the region, what are the absolute top highlights that you recommend they see and do, and whereabouts should they base themselves?
We always talk about vom Bodensee bis zum Santos, which means our destinations reach from the Lake of Constance until Mount Santos. So these two things are actually I think the two main attractions. The Mount Santos we already talked about. There is a hotel at Schwegalp. So the hotel is part of the cable car. So, for example, you can say to the hotel, "I want to breakfast at the top of the peak," and that's going to be possible. Quite an experience. And the other thing is the Lake of Constance. And if you visit the Lake of Constance, we recommend like Heiden as base. And there you can make kind of a round trip from the village Heiden. You start, then you have a walk to a very small village called Walzenhausen. After this walk, you can take the railroad down to the Lake of Constance. Then you can go with the boat from Rheineck, which is also a small village, further to Rorschach, a little town. And then from Rorschach, you go back again with a wreck railroad up to Heiden. So you have like a diverse day trip with different means of transportation and can experience the Lake of Constance as well as our mountains.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that information with us, Andreas. It's been really good to learn more about the region, and hopefully when it's safe to travel again, that you actually start to get a few more international visitors, who stay for more than one day and really can appreciate the customs and the traditions of the region.
Thank you as well. I hope you have learned some more interesting thing about our region, our traditions, and our culture. And of course, would be a pleasure to welcome all listeners to the region of Appenzell.
Thank you so much. Now, for those listeners who want to learn more, I'll include links in the show notes to the Appenzellerland website, and also I'll mention some of the places that Andreas has talked about today, so you can do your research and find out even more information about those. The show notes will be available at holidaystoSwitzerland.com/episode 18. So until next time, thanks for joining us and keep those Swiss travel dreams alive.
Thank you so much for listening. For more great resources on planning a trip to Switzerland, make sure you visit holidaystoSwitzerland.com, where you'll find trip planning tips, destination guides, information on transport, including Swiss rail passes, and much more. You're also encouraged to join the Switzerland Travel Planning Group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and chat to other past and future travellers to Switzerland. You'll find show notes from today's episode at holidaystoSwitzerland.com/podcast, and be sure to subscribe to the Holidays to Switzerland Travel podcast so you never miss an episode.